Prime knit, laceless technology, and boost. This has it all. Or does it? Well, technically, it does have all those things. We're just going to talk about whether or not it's good. What's going on, guys? Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, bringing you my review plus on-feet video of the Adidas Predator Tango 18 Plus turf shoe. It's also available in an indoor variation. It features a forge knit, prime knit, laceless upper, as well as a full-length boost midsole, all for the fairly steep price of $180 US, making it the most expensive indoor turf model currently on the market. Is it worth it? That's what we're going to be discussing in today's video. Anyways, if you want to learn more about these, including how they fit and feel on feet, please stick around, and if you're interested in a pair for yourself, I'll leave a little pop-up on screen, or you can click the first link down below. That'll take you to the review page on my website, where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes, where you'll be able to pick these up in either the indoor or turf variation below their normal $180 retail price. For your $180, they do come in a special drawer-style box. You also get a string bag and a plastic shoehorn that I can honestly say I've never used with any of my laceless Adidas boots. Now, the upper for the most part is pretty much identical to what you'll find from the cleat variation of the Adidas Predator 18 Plus. That shoe retails for $300. This you're only paying $180 for, which is obviously a lot less, but still very expensive for an indoor model, period. The only difference you're going to find, and this is something that I really would like to see on the cleat variation as well, is this extra kind of sandpaper-like texturing that they've implemented in 4 little strips right here on the lateral side, and then obviously covering the entire toe box and forefoot area, wrapping to the medial side of the shoe. And you will only find this texturing on the turf version. The indoor model, I believe, does not have this same element. The reason why I really like this, and the reason why it's there, I guess, is for the sake of durability. It just strengthens the bond between the sole plate and the upper, and it just makes this contact area, which is going to be seen contact with an artificial playing surface, which is very abrasive. It's just going to make it that much more durable, but there is a grip element to it as well. Now, here at the very tip of the toe, is it all that noticeable on the ball? Not really, but the fact that they can do this on this prime knit upper means that we could technically have this type of grip texturing kind of running in thin strips through this little kind of texturing that you have on the upper already. It would kind of be like a very low profile, very modern Predator element without the need of rubber. It really wouldn't add much weight to the shoe, but it definitely would have an impact in terms of giving us something along the lines of what some of those older Predators used to have on offer. So I don't think we're probably going to see this ever on this generation of Predator, but maybe with future models, if they don't want to go the route of adding extra bulk with a rubberized element, which that would inevitably do, something like this is very low profile, it's very lightweight, but it would still give you that difference in feel that the older Predators used to provide, at least to some extent. Everything else aside from the texturing is identical to the regular Predator 18 Plus. It's prime knit in the forefoot toe box area, very soft, very flexible, really does have that sock-like sensation. And then on the laceless model, you'll find what's called forge knit, which is basically just a reinforced variation of prime knit. It's a slightly different weave that's just going to be more structurally stable through the midfoot because the shoe doesn't have a lacing system. You're going to find elasticated prime knit running through the middle area where laces would normally be, and you can see it stretches out, revealing a black mid layer. It's relatively easy to stretch out, which makes them not too hard to put on and take off. There are issues that I personally have with the lacing, the lack of lacing system, I should say, in that it will stretch out on you as you move around. So if you're one of those people that like a super tight, super secure fit, lots of lockdown throughout the entire foot, these laceless boots aren't necessarily for you, but a lot of people do like them, and if you're not too picky about having a super secure sensation on your feet, you're unlikely to have too many issues with this laceless model. It does work, it's just not, in my opinion, as good as something with a lacing system, like a Predator 18.1 as an example. Unfortunately, in the turf variation, you don't really have any option. If you want to go high-end, you have to go laceless, but there are other options out there if you don't necessarily want to buy this exact shoe, because it is the most expensive indoor model out there right now. You're going to find that everything is covered in white in that control skin top layer, which is basically a polyurethane, and you will find little non-stop grip dots running throughout as well, although I don't really think that they have much of an impact on anything. You're going to find that the shoe does have a mid-cut collar to it, although the collar really is just there for the sake of looks. It doesn't really fit all that tight. You don't really notice it. There's no ankle structure to it, but I think it does look cool. I think out of all the mid-cut shoes, I think the Predator is probably the best looking in terms of cut. The Puma Future would probably be a close second. I like the cut of those as well. Has an internal plastic heel counter, nothing too fancy there at all. Very similar construction again to the cleat variation. You're just not going to find the extra bit that extends as far as the heel counter is concerned, because this does not have a control frame sole plate. It has a turf outsole and a boost midsole. You have the synthetic suede lining the heel area with a decent amount of padding that needs to be there for the sake of some kind of lockdown due to the laceless system. The insole, I'll give you guys a quick look at that. It is also very similar to the regular cleat in that it's got a synthetic suede lining on top and it's made from a very thin layer of this boost. Now people get very excited about boost because it's a very popular technology from Adidas right now, but honestly in this insole formation, is that the right word? In an insole form factor, I think that's the proper term, the boost itself is really just a single layer of material. So when you compress it with your fingers, there's really not much padding here. You're basically getting the same amount of padding as a regular foam insole would provide. So I wouldn't pry too much into the insole. I would say on the cleats, it's not really noticeable at all. However, on the turf and indoor model, you actually have full length boost running throughout the entire shoe. A decent thickness of it. You can see some of it exposed through the midfoot. That thickness is pretty much maintained through the heel area. It's contained within this little rubber outside carrier piece, just so it's not completely exposed. You need to have some kind of structure to the boost. Unlike a running shoe where you're just running at a steady pace in a straight line, with a soccer shoe, you're gonna be sprinting, you're gonna be making quick changes of direction. Stability is very, very important. So you can't have that super soft kind of bounciness just because it would be unstable. So with this, you definitely get that boost sensation, definitely the majority of it being in the heel. That's where it's going to feel the most cushioned. And then as you get towards the forefoot, it is a lot thinner than what you'll find through the midfoot and heel area. And you can see inside, hopefully you guys can get a look at that, you sit directly on top of the boost. So there's no actual kind of plate on top to add any kind of firmness or take away from that softness. So in comparison to the cleat, the boost is a lot more noticeable on this particular shoe. And in terms of underfoot cushioning, while it does take a little bit of break-in time for the boost to kind of soften up ever so slightly and the shoe as a whole to soften up, I would say that this is above average, one of your best options overall in terms of underfoot cushioning, period. As far as the outsole is concerned, again, this is the turf version. They do make an indoor model as well. You're gonna find that it does have some semblance of a stiffener bar, kind of mimicking the control frame in the form of this kind of Y-shaped piece of plastic, although its effectiveness is very minor in that you can see it just kind of bends through the midfoot pretty easily anyways. So it's there more so for looks than anything. But the turf outsole, it's got these kind of triangular shape, or I guess technically it's a, four-sided shape. Some of them are triangles maybe. Maybe not, doesn't matter, but they're running throughout the entire outsole. It's kind of a typical turf nub layout, I would say. And honestly, from turf shoe to turf shoe, you're not going to notice that big of a difference in terms of overall traction. Now, there's always a lot of confusion when it comes to turf shoes as well in terms of what surface this is technically made for. Can you use this on artificial grass, which is the plastic blades of grass with the black rubber pellets? The simple answer to that question is yes, you can. The traction is going to be fine, but it will not be as aggressive as a true AG stud pattern would provide, which has more of a standard stud rather than these little nubs. This is technically made for kind of old school artificial grass. That's more of like a rough carpet material without any kind of rubber nubs, or just a very shallow surface in general. That's what this is going to be optimal on, but you can absolutely use it on artificial grass as well without any issues whatsoever. It's really a matter of personal preference more than anything. The last thing to talk about is the weight, and in a size 9 US, these guys weigh in at 11.3 ounces, which is a lot more than the cleat variation of the Predator 18 Plus. And the reasoning for that extra weight is not the upper, it's not the texturing, it's the boost being a fairly heavy foam, or technically it's a plastic. I know people get really mad when you call it boost foam, but it is a fairly heavy material. And then obviously you have all the rubber through the bottom of the shoe, as well as partially through the midsole. That's going to be relatively heavy as well. Definitely heavier than plastic would be. And the weight is going to be very similar on the indoor version as well, if you were wondering. So at above 11 ounces in a size 9 US, is this going to feel super lightweight? Definitely not. This is definitely going to have more of a solid sensation on feet, but at the same time, they are very comfortable. The upper has that sock-like sensation, and you get a significant amount of underfoot cushioning as well. Basically, if you're buying a shoe that has any significant amount of boost, whether it's a soccer shoe or even a running shoe, the Ultra Boost, as an example, isn't super light, but because the underfoot cushioning is so good and it does have that slightly bouncy sensation, it can give you this sensation of the shoes actually being lighter than they are. So don't buy this shoe with the expectation that it's going to feel pretty much weightless on your feet, because that's not going to be what they provide whatsoever. But I definitely don't think that they feel heavy, despite what the scale might suggest. As far as the look and colorway is concerned, this is of course part of the cold-blooded pack, so it has the white, black, and red, kind of a classic Predator color combination. Definitely my favorite color combo that we've seen for this next generation of Predators so far. And it's pretty much the same as the cleat. You have a little bit of texturing that changes the look slightly. It's got the reflective black Adidas stripes there, the red running through the middle, the black at the back here, kind of making up a mock heel counter. But the midsole is really what's going to change up the look of the shoe. The exposed boost I actually think looks quite premium on both the lateral and medial side. This little kind of almost like milky clear midsole, I guess, is a little bit strange. I'm not sure if I'm a huge fan of how that looks, but it definitely doesn't look terrible. And then obviously the outsole is fully black on the turf variation, whereas on the indoor, I believe the entire outsole is the same kind of milky clear, which does actually make them look quite a bit different in the indoor version versus the turf version. But overall, I actually think it's a pretty good looking shoe. Not everybody's a huge fan of the look of the new Predators, but as far as turf shoes go, I actually don't think that these look all that bad at all. But let me know your opinions down below in the comments.
Now obviously, because these are laceless, putting them on is pretty simple, but it can be a struggle if you're not doing it right. Now you can use the included shoehorn like I showed you at the start of the video. I personally never do that though. What I like to do is use both hands, take the opening and make it a little bit bigger so you kind of stretch it out before your foot even makes contact. Turn it sideways like this, and then from here, kind of just slide my foot in, get it to this point, and then just support the back piece so you're not stepping on it. You're basically using your thumb as a shoehorn, which I just find to be a lot easier than using an actual shoehorn. From there, you kind of just slide your foot in, adjust the collar around the edges, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing to adjust from there.
Now on feet, given that the upper is pretty much identical to that of the Predator 18 Plus cleat, a lot of people would expect them to fit and feel exactly the same, and it is very close, although the shape is not quite the same. The upper, for the most part, feels the same because it is all the same materials, but the cut through the midfoot is actually more narrow here on the indoor turf variation and slightly wider and higher volume in the forefoot toe box area. So it's not a huge difference, but it is something that will be noticeable if you're coming from the cleat and you have a good amount of experience with those. I think if you fit into the cleats, you're still gonna fit into these, but the shape is not exactly the same. Something that is super noticeable with these that I don't really love all that much, but I think most people who are already wearing laceless shoes and like the way they feel probably won't have too many issues with this. Because of that boost, especially running through the heel being kind of bouncy, you kind of sink into it and then bounce back up. It does create a little bit of a heel slippage sensation with that and the laceless system combined. Again, something that I'm personally not too crazy about. I kind of experienced the exact same thing in the cleats as well, although not quite to this extreme. Is it going to cause you discomfort? Most likely not, but it is something to be aware of. Again, if you like that super locked in sensation. If you're one of those people, I think laceless shoes in general probably isn't the best option for you. But in terms of out of the box comfort and break-in time, there really isn't too much to break in. The upper is super soft pretty much throughout the entire foot. Just keep in mind that there is no adjustability. So as far as width and the overall fit of the shoe is concerned, it's one of those shoes that you pretty much have to put on and see how they fit. If you feel like they're too loose or they're too tight, or they just don't feel the way that you like them to feel, there's not much that's really going to change during a break-in process. That's pretty much the way that they fit. That's what you get with a laceless system, no adjustability whatsoever. So if you like the way they feel out of the box, stick with them. It's just gonna take some time to get used to them, but if you don't like the way they fit and feel, it's probably best to return them and go for something else, just because again, you don't have that ability to adjust them with this laceless system. As far as the sizing is concerned, I'm wearing a size 9 US here, which is the same size that I would typically wear in a Predator 18 Plus, and I would say lengthwise, they are pretty much identical, with the only difference being this has a slightly higher volume fit and shape in the toe box. So sizing, I would say, is the same. If you're looking to buy this or the cleats, I would definitely recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. So are these worth the $180 retail price? That really depends on what you want. If you're a fan of the Predator 18 Plus concept with the laceless upper, the sock-like sensation, and you like the idea of the boost cushioning providing a really good amount of underfoot cushioning in a form factor that I would say is definitely on the bulkier side, and obviously they're not super light either, then yes, there really isn't any other product like it currently out there on the market. However, if you're kind of more of a value for money person and you're purely after the best objective performance for the least amount of money, then by all means, there are definitely better options out there at lower price points that are gonna be just as good, if not better, depending on what you like from an indoor or turf shoe. So it's a very, very solid construction. It's very solid quality. And in that regard, it's worth the $180 retail price. It's really more so a matter of what you want and whether or not you can justify it to yourself. Not a perfect product, but definitely really, really solid. Anyways, guys, that is it for my review. Again, if you're interested in a pair for yourself, you can click the first link down below. That'll take you to the review page on my website where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes where you'll be able to pick these up below their normal $180 retail price in either the indoor or turf variations. If you enjoyed the video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. If you have any questions for me, as always, leave those down below in the comments and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. All my social media information is linked down below in the description as well, so check that out if you haven't already. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.